name is Jacinta, and I'm happy to be your moderator this afternoon for this session. But first, please note that this session is being live streamed in its entirety on the Dialogue Fiji Facebook page and covered by media organizations. So your remarks may be broadcast or you may be quoted on social media. So with that transparent announcement, we will commence. This morning, for panel one, we heard extensively about the macroeconomic reality. So now in panel two, we pivot to the engine room of the economy, which is the private sector. Our theme for this session is private sector growth, investment, and economic confidence. And over the next hour and 15 minutes, together we will examine the crucial role of the private sector in driving economic growth, productivity, and job creation. Before I introduce the panel, I must convey sincere apologies on behalf of Dr. Maria from the ILO, who's listed on your booklets. Unfortunately, she has not been able to join this morning. But that said, we are privileged to have an outstanding group of leaders here on stage representing finance, business, as well as academia. Please welcome at this stage, we have Mr. Ariff Ali, Governor of the Reserve Bank of Fiji, Mr. Jaouji Koroi, the Group Chief Executive Officer of Fijian Holdings Limited, Mr. Arvind Maharaj, CEO and founder of MCore Technologies, who will be joining us virtually, Mr. Marc Halabe, CEO of and Executive Chairman of Marc Apparel, and Dr. Asaeli Tuibeqa, Dean of the College of Business, Hospitality, and Tourism Studies at the Fiji National University. If I can have a round of applause to welcome our panelists. After the first session, you probably have a feel of how the session should be run. Each of the panelists will have about maximum 10 minutes to run through and share their perspectives on the topic from their areas of expertise. Following that, we will then have a moderated session of around 15 minutes or so, and then open the floor to you, the audience, to maybe question, provide questions, inquiries, and clarifications to our panelists. We have a timekeeper who will be indicating at the green card 2 minutes, the yellow card 1 minute, and the red card when you know that your time is up and therefore you should pass to the next speaker. Without any ado, let's begin. We will start with Mr. Ariff Ali, the Governor of the Reserve Bank of Fiji, to give us a macro perspective and set the scene and context of our topic today. A little bit about Mr. Ali. He has 30 years of central banking experience. He's been the governor since 2017, and as the governor chairs quite a number of national committees, including the board as well as the Monetary Policy Committee, which determines the monetary policy stance of the nation, which is interest rates in very simple terms. So, Mr. Ali, we welcome you to provide your macro perspective.
Thank you, Jacinta. This morning I went to present to the Parliament Standing Committee on our insurance report. And the last couple of days I've got a number of things that I have to give, a number of speeches, and I've been thinking about how to start my talk today. But let me start with this. The Macroeconomic Committee met yesterday afternoon, and I'm sure you have now seen the press release with regards to our GDP numbers. Our GDP for this year was initially forecast to be 3%. We've now revised it to 1.5%. This is the lowest in 5 years. Our estimate for last year, that the economy initially was estimated 3.5, we have now revised it to 3% for last year. For the next year, we've also revised it down from next year to about 2.5%, and the following year to about 2 to 3%. What does this mean? The government had a national development plan which had targeted 5% of economic growth. This simply means that we are nowhere close to 5%. Our inflation rate at the end of May was 3.9%. In September last year was negative 3.8. So for those of you who are smart in maths, will know negative 3.8 to positive 3.9, that means prices on average have gone up by 7.7%. Inflation this month will be higher because the impact of the fuel and gas prices plus the full impact of the electricity surcharge will come in. And as transportation cost goes up because of fuel thing, freight cost will go up. The farmer from Singatoka Valley will now charge more for the vegetables that are delivered in Suva. My brother who goes fishing will now have to charge more for his, not kawa, he can't catch kawa right now, so it will be the gitawa and the others that he has to pay more for it because he has to pay. And for all the kawa and donu, he has to release it, so he has to pay more for it. So our people have to pay more for it. So cost of living is gone up. And I'm putting this in context that on the other hand, we have one of the largest deficit this financial year, 6.4%. Now, if you exclude the COVID years, this is the largest. Our debt to GDP in our estimate will be very close to 84% at the end of this financial year, or somewhere close by. Government expenditure has increased from somewhere around 3.5 billion to now 4.8 billion. Yes, 4.8 billion in this current budget. We know there are a lot of other issues right now. We have issues with drugs, we have issues with NCDs. At the Reserve Bank, we have got filters that do screening on sentiments. And every month, Jacinta and the team will talk about what are the top 5 things that people are worried about. It could be 8 some months. It could be the constitution, issues on constitution. So this is what we do. We scan the environment and what are the issues, whether it's elections, whether we will have elections, where, those types of, whether it's governance issue and so forth. So these are the issues that is confronting us. The biggest challenge for us right now is 2. When our debt to GDP goes close to 84% or 85%, then we have very little space. Normally, when an economy slows down anywhere in the world, the government is the first one to increase expenditure to boost the economy. Unfortunately, we are constrained on that front. And really, and this is why I think this topic is so important. In a period when government is unable to spend more to stimulate the economy, then the private sector has to come in. I wished that we had started a bit more with the private sector a few years earlier. With regards to monetary policy, the way we stimulate the economy is control the price of money, which is inflation. If you increase interest rates, it will be expensive to borrow, and therefore businesses will think twice whether they'll be able to service the debt and whether returns make justify the high cost of borrowing. We have kept interest rates at record levels. Most people in any developing country will be surprised to know that our interest rates in Fiji are at historical lows, lower than what most people will borrow in even Australia, New Zealand, and US. So it's extremely low. So from the monetary policy side, we have done our utmost to help grow the economy. And this is reflected in the fact that private sector credit growth is somewhere around 12.8%. So that means monetary policy is working. A macroeconomist will say that if private sector is growing at 12.8%, how come your economy is growing at only 1%? That means there are a lot of drags on the economy. So the way I characterize where we are right now is that we're really in a period of uncertainty and volatility. This is the opposite of stability. What is happening in the Straits of Hormuz is impacting us and we have no control. Most people think that the price of crude oil, when they look at the market and they say it's close to $98, so the price has gone up from 68 pre-war to now. That's not the truth. In the Asian market, most people are buying crude oil at somewhere around 20 to 50% more than what is quoted in the market. So that's why the price of diesel and fuel have gone up more than what you see in terms of the global crude oil prices. And this will filter into our economy. So transportation or fuel are the life, are just like the bloods of our life. So it will impact us. So for us, I feel that the only option to grow out of this crisis, out of this debt situation, is the private sector. That's the only way. Because government has very little ammunition or room. But when you talk to the private sector, and as I said, based on our surveys, there are a number of issues that are impacting them. One, and we have talked about for a long time, is ease of doing business. Our regulatory agencies, and I'm not saying they may be doing their job, but this is the perception of the investors. Whether it's OHS, whether it's NFA, whether it's Water Authority, whether it's EFL, whether it's FRA, various ministries, this is it. Unfortunately, government has monopoly over this, or these agencies have a monopoly. You can't get your approvals on a vehicle. Only LTA can give you the approval. Electricity, the only institution that can authorize is EFL. So to me, this is something that we really need to work on. Maybe sometimes there's issues, miscommunication, there's issues, but ease of doing business. The other issues are the real ones that you read every day on the newspaper on the front page. Issues like crime rate, drugs, HIV. And I think in this room we need to be honest about it, that these are things that are affecting businesses. I'm worried that if these things get out of control, the driver for economic growth, which is tourism, can be impacted. So really, this is something we really do. My take on this is that right now, there's almost $1 billion of loans that the private sector, that the commercial banks have already approved, but this is not drawn down. Why isn't it drawn down? That's the question. And when you talk to the private sector, they say they're waiting for some approval. So the economy can quickly come up if you give approvals on time. Of course, there are some, if the approvals cannot be given, then it needs to be communicated quickly. So the private sector in Fiji has always been resilient. They continue to invest. Right now, there's a bit of a wait-and-see attitude as we get closer to election, and this is not common with this election. This has been common in all the elections for almost the 35 years I've been in the bank. The only difference was 2014 slightly. Otherwise, there's always a wait-and-see attitude. So my short solution to the challenges we have right now is how can we get the private sector to invest? And to me, the bottom line is, find out what's the problem is. If there are agencies, there's two quick points that I want to say because I've only got one minute left. One is this issue on the ERA bill, or the Employment Relations Bill. In the current form, most private sector have raised that as an issue. And I'm not saying that, the workers should not be paid. They should be paid for what it is, but it's in the current form, and this is something that is impacting business confidence from the feedback I'm getting. So I'm just reporting what they're telling us. The second is we just need to be mindful of this thing about minimum wage. So initially, this session was supposed to be about labor and minimum wage. And I know people will talk about $8, $10, and I want to challenge people, why not $25 or why not $100? Think about it. I'm not going to answer that, and maybe later on we can talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. A very sobering start to this panel, and hopefully we'll pivot later to then delve further into maybe solutions or possible reforms that can help the private sector. Because as Governor mentioned, the only option right now he sees going forward is growth, and growth through and with the private sector. We'll note the 2 key points, and we'll move on to our next speaker, who will take the podium and do a presentation. So our next speaker is Mr. Jaouji Koroi, Group Chief Executive Officer, Fijian Holdings Limited. And he's held various sector senior roles, including the CEO of FNPF. And with this presentation, we hope to get a glimpse through the lens of a major institution as well as investor. So please, Mr. Jaouji, we welcome your perspective on the topic.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The speech by Governor sets me back a bit, but in the private sector, most of the time, yes, the economy is important, but shareholders always demand more than what you've given them the previous year. I've prepared a short presentation to give some perspective from Fijian Holdings as an investment company, also to help in terms of some of the questions that have been posted to the panelists this afternoon. Let me start off by stating that confidence is the currency for investment. And to build confidence, we need to eliminate uncertainties. That's a very important aspect in terms of investment. We always want to ensure that there is some certainty in the environment that we're going into. Fortunately, the presentation is still coming up. Fijian Holdings, as a company, it was established in 1984 through the decision of the Great Council of Chiefs with a very strong purpose to accelerate the participation of the Tauke in the commercial sector, and in doing so, enhance their socio-economic standing. It has been in existence for a while, but it links directly to the socio-economic development goals that we have currently as part of our obligations. Sorry. Thank you. As I said, it was established in 1984 through the Great Council of Chiefs mandate to accelerate the participation of the Tauke in business. This is very important to us. So apart from a commercial entity, this is important in terms of what we do. These are our top 20 shareholders. In summary, 72% of our shares are owned by key Tauke institutions. Tauke Affairs Board, Tauke Trust Fund Board, Tauke Land Trust Board. We have various communities, provincial councils, and tikinas and villages that own shares in Fijian Holdings. This is our value creation process. You will see that we have distributed over 151 million in dividends to our shareholders. which is about 5 times what the diesel investors have put in. We've also grown the value of our shares by about 10 times. So if you are one of the original investors, you have made 15 times in terms of what you put into the business. These are the companies that we invest in: South Sea Cruises, Merchant Finance, RV Patel, FHL Properties, and a few other companies that's known to you. The most recent one was the 51 purchase of the Port Denarau Marina earlier this year. These are some other companies: Fletcher Higgins, Golden Manufacturers, New World, Mars, and some of the brand names that is familiar to all of us. This is representation by portfolio, by sectors. So the 2 key sectors are tourism and retail. We have properties, media, so it's a well-diversified exposure to the local economy. In terms of the group, we employ close to 1,900 employees. We pay in 2024 about 27 million in tax. The payroll for our workers is about 48 million. And our group assets have grown to $1 billion. This is our strategic house for 25-27. Basically, the theme is growing into new frontiers in pursuit of our purpose. There's 3 key elements about growth. It's about new frontiers, new areas of growth, and also remaining true to the purpose that we had. We had 5 key pillars: investing for impact, which is something that we're doing for the first time, to go joint venture with our landowners in developing their resources. Future-proofing our core talks to the investment that we do with our subsidiaries to make sure that they continue to generate value into the future. New investments, we're an investment company. New investments is part and parcel of what we do. Digital transformation and corporate culture cuts across most of the group companies. These were the aspirations: culture for our people, upgrade of a mill. This is a signature investment that we're still pursuing at this stage. MFL to introduce more products aligned to our purpose. They've introduced new products such as Marama Finance, land development, Vanua Finance, in line with what FHL stands for. Commencement of 4 new impact investments, and also in terms of the group to exceed $1 billion in assets and profitability over 100 million, which is around 10% return on asset and about 18% return on equity. In the last 3 years, this is the investments that we have made. Collectively, about 297 million in investments in various categories. Equity, about 8.2 million. Property, $143.6 million. Plant and equipment, 20.6 million. Furniture and fittings, hardware. We've also about 45.6 million in new vessels for South Sea Cruises and some motor vehicle investments. This excludes the growth of 140 million in credit book for merchant finance, double their loan book over this period. So back to the questions. What are the factors that most influence business and investor confidence in Fiji today? As I mentioned earlier, confidence is the currency for investment. It's built on removing uncertainties. But now more and more, the uncertainties are becoming part and parcel of what we do. In the business community, gone are the days that you think that things will be sailing smoothly. Uncertainty will always, and it's becoming more relevant now, it's part of what we go through in our daily lives. On the positive side, post-COVID, there were recoveries led by tourism was a great success. It lifted the economy and benefited throughout the businesses. Favorable monetary conditions. I think this is very important to mention. Our low interest rate environment has been with us for a while. It has stabilized the perspective on investments and makes the return a bit durable. The negative, which is currently in momentum, There are a lot of things that it's already been mentioned, but I'll just want to focus on the second bullet point, which is key infrastructures are failing and bureaucracy is not helping. This is important as an investor, infrastructure and part and parcel of investment. We need roads, we need access, we need water, we need wastewater. So most of these things are not happening for now. Some of the suggestions: we need a long-term infrastructure development plan, and this plan must be put into law, that all incoming government abide by it, including provisions for its funding. Infrastructure needs a long-term perspective in terms of what we do. We can't keep on changing after every 4 years, and that misses the long-term objective of infrastructure. In terms of growth, I think there's a quick win that we can focus on mahogany as an industry with active participation of the landowners. Sugar has been an issue with us, and I think at some point we need to implement a long-term solution because it's a big drag on the economy. And also to explore the feasibility of a national savings schemes to target informal sector and reduce the burden on government's welfare costs. My last slide on the workforce. Fiji is a developing economy and we need more technical skills. Secondly, international labor mobility will continue to influence our labor market. We need an appropriate policy or framework to accommodate this. Tertiary institutions, I know it's been a talk about education as a ministry, more specific here on the tertiary. I think it's more commercially driven. The output is not matching workplace expectations. A need for reform and curriculum to match the workforce requirements. And we need more practically ready graduates. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Koroi. Your presentation is a really good bridge between the macro perspective and then you brought it home to the private sector and bring it into focus. A lot of sound bites, a lot of takeaways. But with that, because we're pressed for time and we're going to continue according to schedule, we'll have our next presenter, who is Mr. Arvind Maharaj, who is joining us online. Mr. Maharaj is the CEO and founder of Omcore Technologies. He is also Fiji Education Commissioner, Director of FSEF, and a chair of the FSEF Wage Council sector representatives. So these diverse roles, we hope, will offer us a broad and valuable perspective from the private sector. So over to you, Mr. Maharaj, for your valuable input.
Thank you. I hope everyone can hear me.
Clear.
Yeah, I see some heads nodding. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be on this Dialogue Fiji session. A lot has been said. I've been following the speakers from this morning. So thank you and good afternoon. I speak today not as an institution, but as a founder building a small company here in Fiji. And every time I invest, I ask one question: what is my return and does it justify the risk? So let me share my slide. I hope it's you are able to view it now. Are you able to view my slide? Okay, so from recovery to return, what will make Fiji's private sector invest again? I believe Fiji must ask that very question at the national level. Where will each dollar and policy and public spending give the highest return, not only in money, but in jobs, exports, productivity, skills, and better lives for our people? That is the lens I want to bring today: return on investment for the business and for the nation. Confidence is not a slogan. It becomes real only when the return, the policy, and the trust behind them make sense. Moving on to the next slide. And I'm not going to spend too much time. I just heard from the governor that it's downgraded to 1.5% for 2026, which is not surprising. Over to the next slide. We're a small market. For any business serving local customers, the size and strength of the market matters. Our population is still around 900,000, but the deeper concern is who is leaving. It was reported in Parliament in 2025 that around 114,000 Fijian residents traveled out between January 2018 and August 2025. Nearly 1 in 8 of our people, and that 114,000 makes up the entire population of Lautoka and Nandi. No one says, actually, I haven't heard anyone talk about the reduction in our, not the population, but the people that have traveled out of Fiji. And these are our workers, our customers, our technicians, our teachers, our nurses, our mechanics, and the breadwinners of families. So today, with customers under pressure, skills scarce, and costs rising, the return on every investment is harder to earn. That is why small business policy is not welfare. It is core economic policy, and it is urgent, as we heard earlier. Urgent is the key word right now. The next slide is about the small business return on investment squeeze. We are the heartbeat of this economy. Pre-COVID statistics show MSMEs contributed over 18% of Fiji's GDP and employed about 60% of the workforce. The MSME strategic plan now seeks to lift MSME contribution to GDP to 40% by 2030. And all MSMEs want that too. But a business lives on margin. Without margin, there is no reinvestment. Without reinvestment, there is no expansion. Without expansion, there are no new jobs, no better wages, and no growing tax base. So the question is not whether business should pay its fair share. Of course, we should, and we do. The real and urgent question is whether the total weight of costs still leaves enough room for us to survive, to grow, to employ more Fijians, and to keep paying our taxes. That is why a return must sit at the very center of policy. Every new tax, every rule, every wage decision, every license delay, every weak road or unreliable utility changes the investment calculation. And when the return becomes too thin, capital simply sits still, as the governor mentioned, no one's borrowing, confidence drops, and growth slows. I'm going to spend a little bit time put on my transport hat and talk about road congestion as a hidden tax on productivity. Let me bring this return on investment discussion down to something every Fijian understands, which is traffic. Congestion is not just inconvenience. It is a hidden tax on workers, families, and businesses. Fiji Roads Authority records over 6,377 kilometers of roads. It has been reported recently around 7,000 or even could be 7,500 kilometers of roads. At the same time, Fiji now has over 162,000 operating vehicles, and vehicle ownership has risen from 68 vehicles per 1,000 people in 2000 to 167 per 1,000 people in 2024. So that's a triple the increase. Let me use a simple illustration. So if just 30 vehicles are added every day, that is 300 more vehicles in 2 working weeks. Whether the actual number is higher or lower in any period, the direction is clear. Vehicle pressure is rising faster than road capacity. So when road capacity does not keep pace, the cost shows up everywhere. Workers arrive late, deliveries take longer, fuel is wasted, parents lose family time, stress rises, businesses lose productivity, and I'll add social problems as well. That is why road network expansion must be treated as an investment, not just a construction expense. World Bank evidence on resilient infrastructure gives us a useful benchmark. It shows that investing in resilient infrastructure can generate about $4 in benefits for every dollar invested, a ratio of 4:1. So applied as a simple scale, if $500 million invested in the right kind of infrastructure can represent about $2 billion in total economic benefits over the life of the asset. That is not all cash back to government. It is time saved, lower vehicle costs, lower fuel use, fewer accidents, better freight movement, stronger resilience, and higher productivity. My point is simple. Move faster, prioritize the corridors where traffic is already choking productivity, build capacity now where traffic growth already justifies. New industries, new exports, new jobs. Fiji is a small open economy and we cannot grow in isolation. To compete, we need a broader vision and the will to remove the obstacles in our way. Today, our economy leans heavily on consumption and we import far more than we sell. We will not import our way to prosperity. We must build our earning capacity, and that means looking beyond the sectors we already know. We need new industries that create new jobs in digital services, technology, outsourcing, agro-processing, niche market manufacturing, and regional trade. And we must read the market shifts happening right now and position ourselves early to capture them rather than react once the moment has passed. As a small technology company, I see this clearly. A digital business can start small and still sell its services across the Pacific and the world without waiting for a ship, a container, or a factory. That is the bolder, forward thinking that Fiji now needs.
Thank you, Mr. Maharaj. I believe that you have 2 minutes remaining.
Skills and education must. Okay, thank you. Skills and education must connect to real jobs. Wages matter, our families are under pressure, our workers deserve dignity. Higher wages can only last when they are matched by higher capability, higher productivity, and healthier business margins. This is where education, training, and investment policy must come together as one. If we want private sector growth, skills policy must be tied to real vacancies, real industries, and the real jobs of the future. So my proposal is simple. Let us build sector skills compacts where government, employers, and training providers agree on the priority skills, the numbers to train, and the job pathways and productivity goals all can come together. And the last slide, what will make us invest again? Well, first and most important, consistency. Policy must be steady and predictable so that businesses can plan with certainty, reinvest, and align behind a shared national vision. Second, proactive government that removes obstacles and cuts unnecessary red tape with approvals that are timely and clear. Third, lower friction for small businesses, digital systems, and simpler compliance. Fourth, real support for productive investment in exports, technology, new industries, and import substitution. And fifth, a national return dashboard. And this is something I like to ask the government to take heed of. Not a report that arrives once a year, but a live tracker always available, showing where our growth truly comes from, whether from domestic consumption or from sectors that earn foreign income and lift productivity. Every major budget choice should pass one simple test. What is the return to Fiji? Will it create jobs, grow exports, lift productivity, and widen the tax base over time? And we also heard that Fiji does not lack plans. We have many plans. What we face is a return, an execution, and a confidence problem. If we want the private sector to invest, we must make investment worthwhile through consistency, speed, skills, infrastructure, and genuine partnership. Execution is what creates confidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maharaj. You've certainly given us quite a broad take from SMEs right down to skills, as well as leaving us with a very good question, what is the return to Fiji? With that, we will move to our next speaker, who is Mr. Marc Halabe, and hopefully he'll bring through all these threads straight to an on-the-ground business owner and his perspective. So Mr. Halabe is the executive chairman of Mark I Apparel. He has a Bachelor of Science Honours and a graduate of the Australian Institute of Company Directors and served on multiple boards, both government and listed, and a recipient of the Member of Order of Fiji for services to the industry. Over to you, Mr. Halabe.
Thank you, Jacinta. Honourable Manoa, distinguished guests. I think I live in a different universe. I really do. But before, I want to get on to the controversial stuff first, and I'll get on to the more micro level of what I do and why I do it. For the first thing, I'd like to say the following. In my decade, I apologise for reading this. I really don't read. I've only got 10 minutes. So if I don't precisely put down what I want to say, I'll probably miss half of it. But I know it's the message rather than what my words carefully crafted are. So please forgive me if it's not my normal way of presenting, but I need to read it. In my decades in operating in this country, I have worked closely with countless Fiji government officials and leaders, one sitting here. Both our electoral political figures and the professional public servants, many are here today that I've worked through the years, who run our ministries. I want to acknowledge with absolute sincerity that these individuals are deeply committed to Fiji. There is a genuine, undeniable desire among our public leaders and professional public servants to achieve real economic growth. They work under immense pressure, navigating complex national challenges to build a better future for our people. Their sincerity is not the issue here. However, we must be honest about the systematic inhibitions that are actively paralysing our public service. And Tanya, you'll agree with this. Right now, the fear of FICAC is destroying public sector initiative. The current environment, where's Barbara? She's gone? Hi, Barbara. The current environment dictates that a single weaponised anonymous complaint can tear down and is tearing down highly effective performing public servants and members of the public who are simply trying to get things done. When public servants are terrified that a proactive, dynamic decision will result in a heavy-handed investigation based on a malicious rumour, they stop deciding. They push paper, they delay approvals, and they hide behind bureaucracy. We cannot achieve a private sector growth if our public service sector is paralysed by fear. The current structure of FICAC must be urgently reviewed and improved. We must introduce legal and procedural consequences for vindictive, fabricated complaints, and we must firmly reinstate the civilised golden rule that an individual is innocent until proven guilty. Accountability is vital, but terror is not accountability. But even acknowledging these systematic roadblocks, there is a core message I'm here to deliver to the business leaders in this room. Sincerity from the government or institutional friction in the civil service is not a substitute for execution by the private sector. Fiji is at an economic crossroads. We either take productivity seriously at every single level right now, or we face absolute economic stagnation. Waiting for the government to solve our commercial problems is not a strategy. Waiting for the next election before making an investment decision is not a strategy. Failing to commit to a successful outcome because the headwinds are strong is not a strategy. The global market does not care about our challenges, our internal politics, or our bureaucratic roadblocks. They don't care. If we sit on our hands waiting for politicians or well-meaning bureaucrats to hand us the perfect operating environment on a silver platter, our competitors will eat our lunch. For Fiji's private sector, failure is simply not an option. It's time to stop looking outwards for excuses and start driving absolute excellence across every single department or get left behind. We cannot discuss driving excellence without confronting how we resource it. Later today, this dialogue team, hopefully, is going to turn its attention to skill shortages and workforce development. Let's inject some harsh operational reality into this upcoming debate. Right now, Fiji is suffering from crippling acute skill shortage. Yet look at how we treat the resource meant to solve it. We have seen an incredibly unwise, structurally damaging shift of the 1% training levy paid by employers. This levy has been hollowed out, diverting 50% to accident compensation, 40% to free medical services, leaving a miserable 10% for actual training, which 5% is swallowed up by operational costs. I ask a very simple fundamental question. Why is the private sector paying for national social programs out of funds explicitly earmarked for human resource development, while our industries are starving for technical skills? This is a policy failure in practice. Whoever thought of this idea? Anyway. National social programs should be funded through general taxation, not by cannibalising the training budgets of businesses. The 1% training levy must be urgently restored and used appropriately for its original purpose, upskilling our workers. Furthermore, if we want real improvements in productivity, if we want to move past just saying the words of productivity, funding of the Fiji Business Excellence Framework must be fully restored. An example of this is that we had a budget of $500,000. During this change of the 1% levy, it went down to $50,000. And there's nothing in this country that would run a productivity excellence awards apart from that system. So it gives you an idea where the previous government felt about productivity and its use of the funds to be fitting in. Fixing our training pipeline is the only way we can capitalise on the unprecedented revolution taking place in artificial intelligence. This was mentioned before by previous speakers. Let me be entirely blunt. The AI revolution is an unprecedented opportunity, but is also an ultimatum. If this revolution is not taken seriously by all sectors of Fiji's society, by our businesses, by our education systems, our public service, and our civil society, Fiji will never achieve global competitiveness. AI is not a distant, futuristic luxury for wealthy nations. It is a live operational tool that is rewriting the rules of productivity across the globe right now. It levels the playing field for small island developing isolations like us. It automates administrative functions, optimizes complex supply chains, predicts maintenance cycles, multiplies the capabilities of workforce, and many, 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 many more. If we choose to ignore it or treat it as a passing trend, while we stick to manual, analog systems, the productivity gap between Fiji and the rest of the world would become a chasm, and we will never cross. We cannot afford to be passive observers of technology. We must become aggressive adopters. In this session, panel 2, our mandate is to explore private sector perspectives, investigate concerns, the workforce dynamics. My company, Mark 1, we don't speak about theory, we actually enact. We speak from survival and triumph of execution. We have proven that the Fijian economy can compete globally, dominate its niche, and actively pull production straight out of China to Fiji. Not the way around. We're pulling production out of China back into Fiji. How do we do it? Not by waiting. We did it through a relentless commitment to strategic alignment across our entire ecosystem, matching our markets, our suppliers, and our customers into a synchronized, high-performing machine. We realized that to win international business, we had to become indispensable to our customers. That meant achieving total speed, accuracy, and transparency. We threw out the old ways of doing business and committed to a complete digital transformation. We didn't just automate 1 or 2 isolated lines. We drove digitization into the very core of the company, moving towards a completely paperless environment across all departments, from the factory floor to shipping, right through to human resources and finance. Live data now drives our decisions. This isn't just about saving paper. It's about erasing time lags, eliminating administrative wastes, and capturing operational data in real time. This intense operational discipline allows us to secure a company that you may know of called Under Armour. It's based in the US, international brand, a massive, high-profile international brand, not just as a customer, but as a deeply committed investor. A global sportswear powerhouse looked past the traditional massive Asian manufacturing hubs to choose Fiji. Why? Because we proved we could deliver world-class quality with absolute reliability, shorter lead times, and an ironclad compliance. We didn't wait for a government initiative or an election outcome to land this contract. We invested our own capital, transformed our systems, and we won it on merit. You can buy the most advanced fixed capital in the world. You can import advanced automated cutting machines and state-of-the-art machinery, but if you do not invest heavy in the human capital, those machines are just expensive ornaments. True productivity requires pursuing excellence at all levels and in every single department. It demands that we stop treating labour as a transactional cost to be minimised and start treating our people as capital to be developed. At Mark 1, we willingly took up the rigid challenge of the Fiji Business Excellence Framework. We didn't do it for a trophy. We did do it to benchmark our internal processes against the best in the world. And when that discipline accumulated in a recognition at the president's level, it was proof that our baseline was working.
Thank you, Mr. Marc Halabe. The timekeeper has given an expiry red note. Would you like to round up for the next 30 seconds, please? Or to round up in the next 30 seconds or so.
Sorry, guys. I thought I was on track. You sure you didn't take a couple of minutes off me? Okay, so I think I'd like to stop here and actually show you what's the next video. If you can allow me to run that video. Is it on? It encapsulates what I was just speaking about. Forget the music.
blueprint, which is quite clearly shared in your video. And I know that you're an advocate for industrialization and AI, but this provides a really nice segue into our next speaker, who will definitely build on resources, a key resource, because the economy is only as strong as its people, as you mentioned, about skill capacity that's important. And we can see that quite a number of skilled labor, has interacted with AI in the Mark 1 blueprint. And so our next speaker would be Dr. Tuibeqa, Asaeli Tuibeqa. So at the end of the video, then I will continue with the introduction from Mr. Tuibeqa. This is perfect. This is great. So from the Mark 1 blueprint, Mr. Asaeli Tuibeqa will then come through from the supply side of the labor force, our key resource, which is our people. And he will conclude our opening presentations and share deeper perspective on our key resource, which is our people. So Dr. Asaeli Tuibeqa is an associate professor and dean of the College of Business, Hospitality and Tourism Studies at FNU, with over 25 years of experience across Fiji's public and private sector. Mr. Tuibeqa, we welcome your insights on and leading and building on what your earlier presenters have touched on, particularly your perspective from our key resource, which is our people. Thank you, thank you, Dr. Tuibeqa.
For the first time, I'm going to speak for less than 15 minutes. I hardly do this. And also, two things that I don't do. I don't comb my hair. And I always try to match the length of my speech with my height. I'm going to take a very, very narrow approach in what I'm going to share today, and basically looking at labor, labor productivity, and human capital development. Marc Halabe has already divulged some of the things that I wanted to share, and I like the way that he has presented his some of his work and his comments and his feelings, and things that he's been presenting from his heart rather than from his head. Before I start, allow me just to make one or two statements. First, we will need investment. Yes, we will need investment. But our challenge in the future is not only investment, but ensuring that human capital development grows as fast as investment demand. Also, without productive and skilled workers, investment cannot fully translate into private sector growth and national prosperity. We have been criticized, crucified several times, universities, because of the things that we are doing at the university. So allow me to just focus on a question that has been given to me. How can Fiji develop the skilled workforce required to develop? If you read this question, it's more about asking me to give you solutions. I wish I have all these solutions. But there's a guy by the name of Jeffrey Sachs, one of the architects of the UN Development Goals, and he said, if you are looking at some of the macroeconomic issues, you better consider something called clinical economics, where you look at things in totality, the interconnectedness of all the things that are happening in the economy. So for that reason, before we suggest or make suggestions in terms of solution, I want us to really understand what is labor, what is labor productivity, and what is human capital development. They are very connected, and we often talked about this several times. And there is a table that I want to share that gives us a very good understanding of some of the current challenges that we're facing at the moment. The skills mismatch, the brain drain, the limited collaboration between the private sector as well as the education institutions, and also the emerging technology gaps. Here is a matrix, and if you quickly look at this matrix, very interesting when you see that while output is growing, our labor productivity is very much stagnant. Now, you quickly work it out. That implies or means that a worker, the value of the output that the worker is producing is only roughly about $28,000 per year. There is a talk about increasing the wage rate to $8. Now, you work it out. $8 for workers who are going to be working for 40 in a week, and then in 1 year, it comes to about below 20,000. And then you match this 20,000 together with the productivity, the space. And Arvind Maharaj talks about the investment space, the space to be able to continue to increase. It's very, very minimal. So I don't think $8 would really make the private sector happy, because already the productivity is very much stagnant or not growing. The other thing that I want to show here is also you'll realize that if you include the FNU graduates, if you look at the FNU graduates, roughly about 4,000, you add them together, you realize that most of the people that are graduating, exiting, are almost also, or exiting the university, most probably are also traveling outside of Fiji, or in terms of the outward migration. This is really what's happening. There is something called the non-engagement of the youth in education, in employment and training. So you realize that at the moment it's about 23.75. When this figure goes up, it's a very bad indicator for the private sector. And whilst we have the net rate of about 23 or 24%, which means roughly for every 4 every 10 people, 4 is about leaving Fiji. We have two models. One is the traditional one, and the other one is very much the modern one. FNU has been forced to try and transform itself to move into the demand-driven model. The old model is where we basically develop curriculum without any consultation, without hearing anybody's voice, views, or interests. We do it in-house, in silos, and we develop the curriculum. We teach the students, and they graduate, and they roam around trying to look for places where the certificate matches the skills. Now, what is happening in the market is a skills mismatch. We have higher employment and lower productivity. But in the new model, this is where we are slowly tilting towards the model where the industry comes in or comes on board, and hoping that we will increase the collaboration, the dialogue, and the interactions with the industry to ensure that whatever we design, it will ensure that the people are job ready after coming out from the university. At the moment, last week we completed looking at our postgraduate programs. We brought in the people from all over, SUVA, those who are involved in the industry, and they review all the course content, we review all the references, we review all the case studies, and then we are going to go back to the university to try and get that approved. As I said, the question asked me about solutions. How can we improve our private sector? First thing that I would really suggest for us is to look at the industry needs. For us, that is a message for us, for the educational institutions. To look at the industry needs, and we cannot develop anything without consulting the industry. And education can only be relevant, and skills can only be matching the needs of the job market if we are interacting, collaborating with them. So we need to build our future skills, and that would mean going out to other places, not only here in Fiji, other international agencies to help us build capacity within, and also the various teaching pedagogies. We also need to retain and attract people. That is something that we will really need the private sector to be giving their input, and particularly those that have retired. A lot of people that have retired from government, from the private sectors, 55 years, 60 years, they're very, very strong. They still have that sharpness, they still have the wisdom, they have the maturity. And I thought that if these are brought back and form a cadre of mentors to try and help guide the new ones that are joining the industry. For information, we have a very, very different generation that are joining the universities or coming to university at the moment. It's, I for one have never seen such this. I grew up in a very old-fashioned, but I really do not want to study. These students, they do not want to study. They do not want to do anything. I just don't know. I don't know. I kind of feel, but they have money. They have money. I just, with so much talk, so much encouragement, they were just sitting there staring, and then they'll stand up and leave. So again, the strengthening of the industry collaboration, investing in TVET, and promote lifelong learning. Some of these we can dialogue on it at a later stage.
Nakavakalevu, Dr. Tuibeqa. You have anchored us really well and ended our presentations, and across the panelists, there you go, audience. You've heard quite a bit, broad issues, broad solutions, and some reoccurring themes which we can unpack now as we move into the discussion round of our panel. Okay, we'll pick up the tempo a bit, and we'll start off this discussion section of our session with a fireside touch base, a pulse check. And we will start with, in one or two words, a lot has been discussed, a lot of challenges, but in one or two words, what is the single biggest headwind Fiji's private sector is facing right now? Just one. If you had to choose one, what would it be? Governor, please.
Just one word. Confidence.
Okay. Mr. Halabe.
I'd agree 100%.
Confidence. Mr. Koroi.
Economic growth.
Dr. Asaeli.
Connectivity, the public and the private.
That's more than two words, but The message received, Doctor. Message received. Okay. Now let's unpack that a little bit more. Is business confidence currently being influenced more by broader economic factors? So these are like inflation, operational costs, labor shortages, or more by local policy certainty, which is taxes, regulation. So which of the two? Governor, please.
Both, depending on which industry you are.
Mr. Halabe.
Sorry, but I agree with him again. But the reality is, I'm an exporter. I don't deal with the local market. And as I said in my presentation, they don't care what happens in Fiji. That they're not interested. They want to know, can I deliver the product on time, at the right price, at the quality required? And if I can do that, they're satisfied that Fiji is the right place to do it. And so far, we're doing it. So I live in a bubble. In my work, I live in a bubble where I don't interact much with the local community. But obviously, when I get involved with the government boards and other places, I obviously see this and live it. So it is a problem, obviously, out there. But I live two worlds. Australia and New Zealand don't care about the politics in Fiji. We live it, we overdo it in our minds, and we fester it in our heads. But if I ask my customer, what do you think was happening in Fiji, they'd have no idea, and they don't care, as long as I keep delivering it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of noises, and sometimes noises can take your head off what you really need to do. For me, you hear the noises, but at the end of the day, you still need to run a business, you still need to run operations, you need to transfer staff, you need to do all these things, which is still pay the wages. So all these things are more important. So sometimes I take the noise out and just focus on the issues that I had had. I think the more, to your question, the more critical one is government's facilitation for investment decision. I think that's the more important thing that, to me, rather than the noises that we hear around the economy.
I reckon implementation is one of the key challenges at the moment. There's so much of talking and talking and talking. When it comes to action, we drag our feet, we think about it, we think about it, we think about it. 1 year completes.
And to bring in our online panelist, Mr. Maharaj, your take on the quickfire question. What, in your view, is the biggest single headwind Fiji's private sector is facing right now?
That would be a return squeeze. Sorry for the two words. The return on investment is decreasing day by day. And if you refer to my slide number 4, you saw the squeeze pressures.
Right. And I believe when we moved on to the second question, which would you choose? Which is the more dominant factor that impacts business confidence, which is the economic factors like inflation, operating costs, or local policy around taxation and regulation?
I would go with the first one. Taxation is very general. It affects people differently. The more profit you make, the more tax you pay, basically. But if you're not making profit in the first place, your taxes are very low anyway. So I think that's not that urgent, but the first point is more urgent.
Okay, we'll start with you for the next question, and that is to provide just one response, one word. And we've established the challenges, and I'd like us now to pivot to the solutions. If you had a magic wand to immediately boost private sector activity and productivity, what one thing would you fix?
Execution partnership.
Execution partnership. Great. Governor?
Yeah.
One fix amongst the challenges.
Bureaucracy.
Mr. Halabe.
You're asking a question that will take me 3 hours to answer as a practitioner. But my involvement with the Fiji Business Excellence Awards, you haven't guessed it, and the Prime Minister's Awards, I would strongly, and I hope they take it seriously, to fund the Fiji Business Excellence framework, that anybody who's serious about becoming competitively globally and to benchmark themselves against the best in the world, that is the entry point where you can start developing your productivity, and it all filters down from there. It doesn't matter if you're a public servant in a department or you're actually running a factory like mine. It all works the same. Once the framework is implemented in your organisation, your journey to become world-class only improves your productivity. And that's what we need to do in this country. We can't just rip the money out of an organisation that's set up to do the job we're all talking about now. There's no other institution in Fiji that offers that. If anybody has a better idea, I'm open for it.
To me, it's government facilitation. Government needs to look at the private sector as partners in this process, in this country. At the end of the day, the taxes that we pay is a stake that the government needs. So if we can work together, the problems are problems that we will all face. And I think if we can work together as solutions, we can be out of this situation much longer.
I will want the education system to be turned upside down, reboot the whole thing. We're still preparing people to be employees rather than employers, and have a new reset.
Thank you. I need to check how we're doing for time in terms of the plenty time. All right. So we will ask.
I'll finish my speech then.
The video kind of covered everything. Yeah. So the next question, we're going to move into and dig into human capital as a solution. And I've heard quite a few key points coming out from the panelists, and that's either, training, allocation of funds, moving them into becoming more upskilled in technology and digitalization. How can Fiji adequately prepare its workforce for future economic needs? And more importantly, how can we retain these people in the country? Governor.
I think we need to be practical and realistic. There'll always be people who leave Fiji. The income disparity between Australia and Fiji, or New Zealand and Fiji, or US, Fiji is large. So let's not believe that people will always stay. There'll always be people who leave, but what we really need to do is ensure that we remain competitive. And the key is this: can we grow our economy at a rate of 5%? That means incomes will be rising, and people's chances of saying I should go is less. If you improve our health facilities, you improve our infrastructure, and if you work on things like crime, and then the chances of people will stay more. So it's important that we grow our economy. Some will leave, irrespective of what we do, but then we hope that we can retain a lot of people who would otherwise leave because of some of the other factors.
If we only focus on the local market of less than 1 million people to expect to run a fairly profitable endeavour, you're kidding yourselves. I know people are doing it successfully fairly well, but in reality not many are. The real success is exports. You've got a market literally 3 hours away by flight, which is 35 million people, and you've got New Zealand down below. That's where you focus on, your exports. And that's exactly what this government needs, or this country needs, particularly with its income, its the products that you make, your economies of scale. Let me remind everybody that in Australia, the national minimum wage is $25 Australian. That's $32 Fijian an hour. And what are we talking about? Even it goes to 8, between 6 and 8, or 5 and 8. We are still competitive, more than just competitive. The technology I have in my factory is available in Australia, but it's obviously better here than it is in Australia at $25 an hour. And China and the rest of the Southeast Asian countries, their wages are going up much, much, much faster than ours as well. So the medium to long-term future of Fiji, small as it is, focus on the export markets, and we've nailed it.
I think we also need to realize the generation that are entering the workforce, the expectations are much different from when we joined. So maybe I think the design in terms of what we expect from them must be different in terms of preparing them for different things. But I think my colleague also touched on that because there's still a lot of people that are unemployed. So the question is, how can we make this group more productive and find more meaningful ways to contribute to the economy?
Seriously, for those who want to be lazy, let's just leave them behind. Seriously. The thing is, we have a lot of bright people coming to the university, and we are allowing them to be sitting together with these lazy people. And I think we need to be rethinking, kind of ring-fence them and incentivize and send them out to learn IT and do some other things. Otherwise, it's just following one another and they will move into this circle of nothingness. Thank you.
And we do have Mr. Maharaj, who's online, please feel free to contribute to the question.
Thank you. We need skills policy tied to real vacancies and real industries. My proposal is sector skills compacts where government, employers, and training providers agree on priority skills, training numbers, job pathways, and productivity goals. Higher wages are important, but they must be supported by higher productivity, stronger skills, and healthier business margins. As I mentioned earlier, we separate wages from productivity and business sustainability. We create pressure without creating lasting income growth. So if there's no margin, we're unable to retain the workers anyway and pay them more. Just one point I wanted to add was that when we say private sector, we must be clear which part we mean. A domestic MSME depends mainly on local household spending. An exporter or tourism operator earns from outside Fiji. A large investor looks at scale and long-term certainty. The return equation is different for each, so policy cannot be a one-size-fits-all. So there's a lot in that. And I just wanted to touch on the incoming remittance. That is making our people more lazier, actually. We have people available to work, but they don't want to work. I think that's the reality. Nobody wants to speak out loudly. And this remittance thing, for the Reserve Bank, what I would say is the remittance is coming. I think it's around $1.4 billion per annum. But where is it going? How is it being utilized? That's what we should focus on more to determine, okay, what is that remittance contributing towards? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maharaj. Now this brings us to a nice change in the session, and that is to open up the floor for audience questions. Now at this stage, I would like to ask that any question posed is concise, so short and to the point, not exactly a statement, but a question to the panel so that we can maximize it. We hardly get to have a panel like this together, so we want to maximize tips and answers and maybe some really good takeaways. So we open the floor.
My name is Caroline Fisher. I just would like this question to be to Dr. Tuibeqa in regards to the pathway for employment. Is there any pathway that has been provided by the university for the graduates on that context. Thank you.
Thank you. On a serious note, we do not seem to have anything as such, but we are just beginning to engage with the government ministries, whereby they are offering some kind of work attachment. For us, it's like engaging students from day one, and it's providing the pathway where they will make the decision after they graduate whether they will remain with that organization or they'll move on. For any formal kind of pathway, we only have the apprenticeship program and industrial attachment, but there is no real connection with the private sector in terms of the career choices and the future of the students. Thank you.
Bula, thank you. My question is actually for Mr. Marc Halabe. Mr. Marc Halabe, you've been in the directors in a couple of boards, which is within the government, and you are also the board member of the Investment Fiji. The levy of 1%, which you have shared today, it was been actually diverted in 2019, and since today it has been diverted. Being as a part of the member of the board in Investment Fiji, you look at the investment, you look at the aspect of what the businesses are facing. My question is, until today, why it has not been restored back for the purpose it was, for the purpose it has been removed, it has been like 1% was taken from the business. Because what I feel, and I recently posted a video, that not only your government which equally failed, but it is also the businesses who equally failed of upskilling our local workers. Productivity is not only the cause of salary and things that we're looking at. The productivity I look at, the amount of time workers spend in traveling in bus from Nasori to Suva corridor, 2 to 3 hours in traveling, and it all declined in the course of productivity for workers. But my simple question is, why now? You're all talking about 1% levy, which was actually removed in 2019. And why the businesses has not taken action since that?
Let me answer that, otherwise you're going to take over the floor. Reality is that I'm no longer involved with Investment Fiji. I've done my 3 years at the Investment Fiji, but certainly I've learned a lot over that 3-year period. For those, I think the gentlemen have already not in the room, but 3 years ago, we sat, when the new government came in, we sat down with all the permanent secretaries and tried to work out how we're going to reinstate that 1% training levy. It wasn't that we didn't try, it's been in the system. And for some reason, I believe some legal system, because how it was cut up and spread out to the insurance and to the private medical, it was very difficult to legislate the changes requirement. So please don't think that nothing was done over that period. And I think even Mr. Maharaj himself has been active in the media, and the FSF also has been very active in trying to get that 1% back to place. But for some reason, legal, legislative, writing up the law, whatever it is, they haven't performed it yet. To our detriment. I agree with you, to our detriment.
Do we have any more questions? Sure.
Thank you. This is a very critical question, and I pick up on a very great presentation on private sector. And when we dissect private sector, we can see a very marked difference. The difference that I'm alluding to is the rate of success, and of course I make reference to a very inspirational presentation by Fijian Holding Limited, a great success story. But on the other hand, my observation goes to the centuries we have been here. The migrant community's rate of success and participation in private sector is totally different compared to our Itoukei brothers and sisters. And when we go around the circle trying to interview and see the difference and challenges faced, the common question, and it was also posed in the earlier session, is why our Itoukei brothers are being marginalized or deprived of the benefits like the private sector of others. And we all know the 4 key factors of production: land, labor, capital, management, and entrepreneurship. Land, 80% is owned by our Itoukei brothers. But despite that and numerous affirmative action, I recollect MCOL and others,
If you
I'm
can
deeply concerned
shorten your statement,
why the
please.
gap continues and how we can address that. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you for, I wish I had the answer. Definitely for us, what we're doing now is to, in one of our presentation, in my presentation, we have introduced what we call impact investment, which we've, board has allocated about 50 million for us to, through joint ventures, invest directly with landowners. We're finding it difficult. It's not as easy as just investing in companies that are doing well. There's a lot of hand-holding, there's a lot of processes, there's almost holding them to a process. To your question, it's an aspiration. It might not be here today, but sometime in the future, hopefully we'll be there. Thank you.
Do we have enough time for a few other questions? Okay.
Just, sorry, just very quickly, I have 3 questions to 3 individuals. I'll just do them very quickly. Marc, being now that you're the poster child for productivity in Fiji, can you just share a bit on what the automation has meant for your business and how that's translated into, clearly because of the productivity element, it's created more ability to deliver at the international standard. So if you can just talk a bit about that. In terms of Jaouji, now that the Mahogany Bill is now enacted, how do you see that playing forward in terms of the Fijian economy? Because it's certainly an untapped industry in Fiji. The arguments are that it's about $1 billion worth of economic activity in there. So just a bit of chat around how you see that playing forward. And then just finally to the governor, I know you touched on business sentiment. If you were to put your hand on it, what are the 1 or 2 things that are really causing the, putting outside the, leaving aside the election, what are the other drivers do you think that are causing this subdued business sentiment, if you like? Thank you.
I've lived through this before. In the 1980s, the Australian government, in its wisdom, said we don't need your industry in Australia anymore because you're inefficient. To become efficient, we put a lot of capital into our plant machinery, but it didn't save us. The differential between Australian wages to China wages wasn't going to cut it. So now we have in 2023, the wages, the national minimum wage, which was on, has doubled. It's $5, and they're now talking about national wage increase and a living wage increase. There's 2 things in play. To be real, the equipment that we put in the last 2 years have improved our productivity by 20%. Wages have doubled. I've only been able to improve productivity by 20. I'll take it. While others haven't invested, they're going to be struggling to be competitive. I've making the choice of doing that decision on investing and becoming competitive and remaining in Fiji and to keep exporting. If I don't, I might as well shut shop down. My customer could save possibly $1 or $2 out of China or Indonesia or Vietnam and over 1 million garments. That's $1 million on his bottom line if he doesn't use Fiji. But we have a niche to play and we have a commitment to our customers. And we're playing that niche to the best we possibly can. And part of that game is making sure we are the most modern facility in the South Pacific. The equipment I have could be anywhere in the world. It doesn't have to be in Fiji. But we've got it here, we're going to utilise it. And just as an announcement, Under Armour now want us to export to the UK from Fiji. How hard that's going to be? We're now on that journey. We're going to export to Australia, New Zealand, and the UK because of our investment in the productivity arena.
Thank you. I think the amendments to the Mahogany Act is quite fresh. We've been waiting for it for a while. It do two things. One, it unlocks the potential for the investment to be there. And secondly, it allows the landowners to participate in their own resources. That's critical for us, and it's inviting key institutions in the Fijian Itoke to become partners in that sector. So I think the way forward is to look for a strategic partner and ensure that those economic activities are shared widely amongst the owners of the resources. Thank you.
So there are a few issues that we need to tackle. One, I think Jaouji raised a good point. I think there's too much noise. Unnecessary noise, too many inquiries, people have been distracted, and that's what. And really, this is a fact. I mean, we do, as I said, we do the sentiment, and that comes out. So that's one. Two, I think we need to be very clear with government some of these key policies. You can't bring about ERA, then you take it out, then you say you're taking some time and things like that. I mean, to me, it's about certainty and giving direction. So what the private sector want is be clear on what you want. And to me, that's the thing. Third issue, I think we need to be mindful about labor. There's a real issue with labor. And this comes out very clear on a survey. This issue about productivity, this issue about loss of skilled labor. Yes, Marc is lucky, he's invested, but not everybody is lucky. I mean, people have gone, a lot of industries have lost. So labor is another issue. Things like utility, cost. If you're not mindful, if you're not careful with the increase in fuel prices, how long can EFL last? Or continue with this 5.9 cents as a surcharge? What if it goes up by EFL wanted 11 cents? You ask most businesses, had the surcharge been 11 cents, what will it happen to the bottom line? How many of them will stay on what they think? So we need to be mindful of things, but we can't fix all the problems overnight. We need to know what are the 3, 4, 5 things. And it's important, therefore, my bottom line is this. Government needs to listen to the private sector also.
I believe I'm told that we have time for one more and final question, unfortunately, but you'll be able to engage with the speakers after our session. Thank you. Madam, your last question.
Oh, okay, thank you. I teach political economy, and with regards to economic sector and business organizations, they get impacted. The business and economic sector do not operate independently of the political sector, although they would like to, some would like to portray it as such. And any business or economic activity is conducted within the constraints of the political economy. So the political decisions have an impact on the business and economic activity. So in Fiji, of course, we've had coups, etc. So how big an impact is the political decisions, or the expectations of the political sector having on in terms of businesses, be becoming incentivized to invest more in Fiji? Do they feel constrained, do you think, by the what's happening in the political sphere? And especially do you think business organizations sometimes have to side with the government, or is it affecting them in that way? That's one question. And my second question was in terms of the labor side. Historically, from colonial times, the Fijians have always been encouraged to join the security sector, the service sector, for example, and agriculture farming sector. So and how big a role is it playing to, as a disincentive in them to join the other sectors, whether it's the business sector or in the sectors that we are experiencing labor shortage, and how can they be incentivized, the Itoke, to take interest in those sectors that we have a labor shortage, or in the business arena, aside from the traditional sectors from the colonial times? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your two questions. I'll allow the panel to choose who they would like to. Ooh, Governor's up first.
So very simple. You know, we have elections, politicians make all sorts of things in terms of what's in the, manifesto. And the way they bring out the manifesto, the things is in the budget. So it's not only in Fiji, so it's all over the world. Governments have the budgets, that's the manifesto, and that's what they put out. So they have an influence on business. But it's always the intention, the intention is always to make sure the economy grows, businesses thrive, and there'll be more taxes and employment. But sometimes, there may be policies that are not appropriate. So it's a decision that governments make all over the world. The good thing is, if most people are not happy, then there's something we call elections that happens. So that's the bottom line. Politics or politicians ultimately, because they're responsible for the budget, they is. On the second question, I mean, to me, I reflect on. So I did my first degree in Malaysia, and I urge people to read the book called by Mahathir, The Malay Dilemma. There is nothing wrong if I choose not to be in business. My father was a businessman, but he was a fisherman. I choose to be an economist and to be employed. There's nothing wrong, and we should not push people into sectors that they are not ready, they don't have the right skills. I think it's really important, because that's the recipe for disaster. So not everybody can be a good businessman, not everybody can make tough decisions. I feel that some of us, we have a heart that is bigger, so if you do a business, even we'll fail because we'll feel pity for people and give things free, or give them under the table, or we'll not charge them. So we have to be careful of pushing people into business. I mean, there's this mindset thing, but I think we just have to be careful of pushing anybody who does not have the skills to go into business, because there's a special skills that is required, and not all of us have it. I don't think I have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Would any of the other panelists like to weigh in?
We are here today because of political events that have happened in the past, and it's difficult to separate them. And if you look at the history, the economy has been badly handicapped by the political implications of what has happened. So if we really want to move this nation forward, we really need to be mindful of the undercurrent coming from the political influence that is really hampering. If not, we are going to continue this road forever and ever. And that will take a man who will be wise, who has wisdom, to be able to balance this. And that's what we really need today. The other thing in terms of business is this. I guess I said this several times. We're still doing things upside down in terms of encouraging people, those that need to go to doing business. If you look at the communities, there are 3-4 layers of business, and you need to understand them. The micro, those who are really struggling, and the big ones like him. And we cannot have a policy that will apply to him, and that policy goes down to everybody. And we need to be mindful of that, because the characteristics are different. Some are just struggling. They just need some kind of hand-holding, as he has said, some kind of encouragement. The rest will need to go into the formal approach to be able to enter business. And I believe this is where we have shifted all our focus to those that are operating working at the moment, those who can perform or are successfully doing business. And we have ignored the majority that are really struggling swimming in the small micro enterprises. Thank you.
We have time for a final question. Please, sir.
Vinaka. As again, I'm from a political standpoint. And a question to Mr. Tuibeqa. Early this morning, we talked about education sector is not fit for purpose. And his comment today in regard to students. Okay, grassroots. The question is, there was the education bill of 1966 has just now been passed. We have a new education bill of 2026. It's now 2 weeks old now. How is the education bill should be changing all the education? Now it's the education bill has now brought the education into this to today's needs and requirements. How do you think that the education bill will help? What the problems and the challenges you're facing at FNU? Naka.
I'm really sorry, I have not read the education bill. But the thing is this. The environment that we're living in today and whatever the demand, the pressures from outside is changing the face of our operation. And we cannot ignore that. We cannot allow us to be ignorant of what's happening outside. The point is this. We're talking about productivity, and education has a very, very strong correlation to productivity. And we have been approaching education from a very, very shallow platform. We have not really gone out and talked to people. Why would we need to rush through and just pass the bill? The consultation needs to be thorough so that we can ensure that the views, the voice, and the interests of those that are implicated should be captured. Otherwise, we again will be pushing through a solution that does not match the condition of the ground. Thank you.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, we began our session. The goal was to pivot to the engine room of the economy, which is the private sector, and to move beyond the general observations and to focus on some clear and practical solutions. So what we've taken away is the only option is growth, and growth through the private sector. The challenges are vast. So the panelists have said execute, move fast, invest in skills. Wait-and-see approach is not a strategy, and increase the investment return to Fiji. With that, I'd like to take this time to extend my profound gratitude to our outstanding panelists, Mr. Ariff Ali, Mr. Koroi, Mr. Arvind Maharaj, Mr. Marc Halabe, and Dr. Asaeli Tuibeqa. Thank you for your flexibility. I know that you've had to pivot on a change of topic at short notice. Thank you for engaging in a robust and solution-oriented dialogue. We thank you, the audience, as well, both here at GPH and those watching live stream, for your contributions, your questions, and your digging and getting our panelists to share more advice and gold nuggets. For that, please join me again in thanking our panelists with a big round of warm applause. Naka.